Hello students, this is Dr. Dakshayini, Assistant Professor in Zoology from Maharani Science College for Women, Bengaluru. Today, I'm going to deliver a lecture on general characters and classification of amphibians under Paper 3, Chordata. The objectives of learning this topic is to know the exact taxonomical position of class Amphibia and to learn the general characters and specialized features of the amphibians, and also to understand the classification of living amphibians. Before I could start my class, let us know briefly about the outline classification of subphylum Vertebrata under phylum Chordata, and on what basis the vertebrates have been classified into different classes. As we all know that kingdom Animalia is broadly classified into phylum Chordata and phylum Non-Chordata based on the presence and absence of notochord, which supports the body structure. Phylum Chordata includes a wide variety of animals differing from one another in many aspects, but all the chordates possess 4 diagnostic common characters either at their embryonic stage or at their adult stage. The 4 characters are presence of notochord, nerve cord, pharyngeal gill slits and tail. Further, phylum Chordata is divided into 2 groups. Group A Craniata, which means animals without head and are regarded as lower chordates, and Group Craniata, which means animals with head and they are regarded as higher chordates or more advanced chordates. Let us concentrate only on higher chordates, that is Group Craniata, in which the notochord is only present in their embryonic stage and later it is replaced by a cartilage or bony vertebral column in the adult forms. The vertebral column is also known as backbone. Hence, the animals which possess vertebral column or backbone are called as vertebrates, and they are grouped as subphylum Vertebrata under phylum Chordata. Vertebrates are also characterized by having muscular system, internal skeletons that allows them to move easily. And all vertebrates have bilateral symmetry, well-developed body systems and a central nervous system that controls many functions. These vertebrates are grouped into 2 superclasses under division Gnathostomata, which comprises jaw-bearing vertebrates, which vary in structure, life cycle and behavior. The 2 superclasses are the superclass Pisces, which exclusively comprises fishes that live in water, breathe through gills, skin covered by scales and fins as their locomotor organs. They are cold-blooded animals. The other superclass is Tetrapoda, which includes limb-bearing vertebrates, and they are further classified into 4 classes. Class Amphibia, they are amphibious are transitioned from vertebrates that spend part of their life in water and part on land, which breathe through both gills and lungs, and they are also cold blooded animals. Class Reptilia, they completely adapted for terrestrial mode of life. Skin is covered by scales and they are also cold blooded animals. Class Aves, which exclusively includes birds and are only vertebrates that have feathers, and they are warm-blooded animals. The last class is class Mammalia. They are also warm-blooded animals and they are the only vertebrates which possess mammary glands for nourishing young ones. With this brief introduction, let us learn more about amphibians, the first group of terrestrial animals that partly moved from aquatic to land. The contents of this topic is as follows: Introduction to amphibians, general characteristic features of amphibians, and classification of living amphibians up to orders. Introduction to class Amphibia. Amphibians are small vertebrates. They are typically characterized by their incomplete transition form from water to land. Amphibians are considered to be the first vertebrates to develop legs and move from water to the land. The word amphibian is derived from the ancient Greek term which means both kinds of life are to have two lives. This is so because the natural life cycle of an amphibian requires that it live partly on land and partly in the water. Amphibians are ectothermic or the cold-blooded animals, which means they does not maintain constant body temperature. The class Amphibia includes all tetrapods, that is tetrapod vertebrates, that are not amniotes, which means there is no extra embryonic membranes during the development of embryo. They inhabit a wide variety of habitats, and most species living within the terrestrial, fossorial, arboreal or freshwater aquatic ecosystems. Obtaining air outside an aquatic environment required species to have suited adaptations, and this was the case of amphibians, many of which contain both gills and lungs for aquatic and above water respiration. Hence, the young generally undergo metamorphosis from larva with gills to an adult air breathing form with lungs. There are many paleontological evidences which proves that amphibians have originated from fishes during the Devonian period of Paleozoic era, and they increased during the Carboniferous period. Hence, this period is known as Age of Amphibians. According to Romer, they say dipnoi fishes are the uncles of amphibians, and according to Newman, both dipnoi and amphibians had the same grandfather, which means they had same ancestors. This is the systematic position of class Amphibia. under kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, subphylum Vertebrata, and superclass Tetrapoda. Coming to the general characteristic features of amphibians. Amphibians are ectothermic, are cold-blooded animals that they do not maintain their body temperature through their internal physiological process, where their metabolic rate is low, and as a result their food and energy requirements are limited. The body is divided into distinct head with elongated trunk, where neck and tail may or may not be present. Amphibian skin is smooth, highly glandular, and is naked, that means without scales. And it is permeable to water, where gas exchange can takes place through the skin, which aids in cutaneous respiration, and this allows adult amphibians to respire without rising to the surface of water and to hibernate at the bottom of ponds. To compensate for their thin and delicate skin, amphibians have evolved mucous glands, principally on their heads, backs, and tails. In addition, most species of amphibian have granular glands that secrete poisonous substances, which acts as a defensive mechanism. The main poison producing glands, called the parotid glands, produce the neurotoxin bufotoxin and are located behind the ears of toads. And these poisonous glands acts as a defensive mechanism in their body. In amphibians, the buccal cavity is large and has homodont teeth in upper jaw, and they have muscular protrusible tongue. They have valved nostrils which are connected to buccal cavity to exclude water. The specialized structures that are the vocal cords, which is present only in males of frogs and toads, and they use the vocal cords to give signals during mating. In amphibians, eyes are large and they are often provided with movable eyelids, and they have tear ducts. The ears are well developed in amphibians. There is no external ear, but the large circular eardrum or the tympanum lies on the surface of the head just behind the eye. This vibrates and sound is transmitted through a single bone, the stapes, to the inner ear. Only high frequency sounds like mating calls are heard in this way. Most species have ears that can even detect airborne or ground vibrations. All amphibians have two pairs of limbs except for the limbless amphibians, and a few species of salamanders have reduced or no limbs at all. The forelimbs are provided with 4 clawless digits, and the hind limbs are provided with 5 clawless digits, where the hind limbs are larger than the forelimbs, especially in those species that principally move by jumping or swimming. Example, frog. The limbs have adaptations for the way of life, with webbing between the toes for swimming, broad adhesive toes pads for climbing, and keratinized tubercles on the hind limbs for digging. Moving to endoskeletal system, amphibians have a skeletal system that is structurally homologous to other tetrapods, though with a number variations in vertebrates. The bones are hollow and lightweight. The musculoskeletal system is strong to enable it to support the head and body. The modern amphibians have fully ossified, means bony vertebrae with articular process. Their skulls are mostly broad and short and are often incompletely ossified. And they have dicondylar skull with two occipital condyles for articulation with vertebral column, and their ribs are usually short and may be fused to the vertebrae. The pectoral girdle is supported by muscle, and the well-developed pelvic girdle is attached to the backbone by a pair of sacral ribs. The ilium slopes forward and the body is held closer to the ground. Coming to the respiratory system, the lungs in amphibians are primitive form compared to those of higher vertebrates. They possess few internal septa and large alveoli, and comparatively oxygen diffuses slowly into the blood, and the proper aeration is accomplished by buccal pumping in amphibians. Most amphibians, however, are able to exchange gases with the water or air via their skin, where skin plays a vital role in respiration, and it enables sufficient cutaneous respiration. Therefore, in amphibians, the skin remains moist to allow the oxygen to diffuse at high rate. In amphibians, digestive system is said to be simple and complete, where the alimentary canal is long and coiled tube. It includes the mouth, buccal cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, intestine, and it ends in cloaca. The circulatory system. Amphibians have a heart that consists of two auricles with sinus venosus and a single ventricle with truncus arteriosus. The heart is said to be three-chambered. When the ventricle starts contracting, deoxygenated blood is pumped through the pulmonary artery to the lungs, and continued contraction then pumps oxygenated blood around the rest of the body. Mixing of the two blood streams is minimized by the anatomy of the chambers. The circulatory system includes both hepatic and renal portal blood vascular systems, and RBCs are nucleated and they contain hemoglobin. Coming to the excretory system, the excretory system comprises a pair of mesonephric kidneys and a pair of ureters and a large bilobed urinary bladder that stores and excrete urea. Amphibians are said to be ureotelic animals. where larvae and most aquatic adult amphibians excrete the nitrogen as ammonia in large quantities, while terrestrial species with greater need to conserve water, they excrete less toxic product urea. Some tree frogs with limited access to water excrete most of their metabolic waste as uric acid. The nervous system. The amphibian brain is less well developed than that of reptiles, birds, and mammals. The brain consists of equal parts of cerebrum, midbrain, and cerebellum. Various parts of the cerebrum possess sensory input such as smell in the olfactory lobe and sight in the optic lobe. And it is additionally the center of behavior and learning. The cerebellum is the center of muscular coordination, and brain consists of 10 pairs of cranial nerves. The lateral sense organ system. The tadpoles retain the lateral line system of their ancestral fishes, which help to balance the body and to detect the water pressure. But this is lost in terrestrial adult amphibians. Some limbless amphibians possess electroreceptors that allow them to locate objects around them when they are submerged in water. Reproduction in amphibians. The sexes are separate and adults show sexual dimorphism. The male reproductive system consists of a pair of testes, a pair of vas efferentia, and a pair of urinogenital ducts. The males lacks copulatory organs. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries, a pair of oviducts, and a pair of ovisacs. Generally, females are oviparous. They lay mesolecithal eggs with gelatinous covering in water. And some tailed amphibians are viviparous, where they give birth to young ones. Fertilization usually takes place externally, except in urodils, that is tailed amphibians, and development is indirect with aquatic tadpole larval stage, and that undergoes metamorphosis. For the purpose of reproduction, most amphibians require fresh water, although some lay their eggs on land and have developed various means of keeping them moist. Life cycle. Most amphibians go through metamorphosis, a process of a significant morphological change after hatching from egg. In typical amphibian development, eggs are laid in water and larvae are adapted to an aquatic lifestyle. The examples are frogs, toads, and salamanders all hatch from the egg as larvae with external gills for respiration. There is a parental care is evident in amphibians, where it is estimated that up to 20% of amphibian species, one or single or both the parents, that is both the adults, play some role in the care of the young, and those species that breed in smaller water bodies or other specialized habitats, they tend to show complex patterns of behavior in the care of their young ones. Coming to the classification of living amphibians, the class Amphibia has about 2500 living known species, and that includes the living salamanders, frogs and toads, the limbless caecilians. The amphibians have been classified into 6 orders. Among them, three orders include extinct forms. The remaining 3 orders includes the living forms. The extinct amphibians are placed under subclass Stegocephalia, and all the living ones are placed under subclass Lysamphibia. This classification is according to G.K. Noble, 1924. The subclass Lysamphibia, which means a smooth surfaced amphibians. The members of this class are found throughout the tropical and temperate parts of the world. They possess scaleless, smooth and glandular skin, which helps in cutaneous respiration. They have broad skull and fang-like teeth, and vertebrae are monospondylix. In the ear, auricular, operculum and columella are present. The subclass Lysamphibia is divided into 3 main orders, and each having its own species. Order Anura, which comprises frogs and toads. Order Urodila, which comprises salamanders. Order Apoda, which comprises the limbless amphibians. Order Anura, they are tailless amphibians. Order Urodila, they are the tailed amphibians. And order Apoda, they are the limbless amphibians. And the picture shows the examples for each order. Order Anura, or it is also known as Salientia, which includes the frogs and toads, and there are of totally 545 species. Frogs and toads are tailless amphibians that have large and well-developed eyes. Their short and thick bodies possess 4 legs. Frogs have long and powerful hind limbs that are well adapted for leaping and swimming, whereas the tree frogs have suction pads on their fingers and toes for climbing. The toads have shorter legs than the frogs, adapted for hopping or walking instead of leaping. And the skin of toads has a dry and warty appearance. The mandible is devoid of teeth, and fertilization is usually external, and the tadpole larva metamorphoses into adult. Example: Bufo, Hyla, Rana, Rhacophorus, etc. Order Urodela or the chordata, which is which includes the tailed amphibians, and it includes the total of 560 species. The tailed amphibians, they are of exclusively the salamanders. They have a tail, short bodies, and they have 4 limbs of almost equal size, and the skin is moist. They are often brilliantly colored and have great powers of regeneration. Most salamanders are about 4 to 6 inches long, but the Chinese giant salamander grows to 5 feet in length. A tiny species in Mexico measures only about 1 inch. They are lizard-like with distinct head and well-developed tail. They have great power of regeneration, and both the jaws are provided with teeth. In aquatic forms, gill slits, external gills, and a lateral line system are present. They are provided with small eyes without any eyelids, and in cave dwellers, the eyes are lost completely. The kidneys are primitive form. The fertilization usually is internal, and they are viviparous, where they give birth to young ones. Urodels shows pedogenesis and neoteny, where in some cases there is a retention of larval characters in the adult. For example, retention of larval gills in some urodels. This phenomenon is known as neoteny. And there is a precocious development, means early development of reproductive organs in the larval stage itself. As in some salamanders, it takes place. This phenomena is known as pedogenesis. The example is axolotl larva. Coming to Order-Apoda, it includes limbless amphibians. They are commonly called as Caecilians. These are worm or snake-like, limbless, and they are burrowing forms, and they are completely blind worms. Body is smooth, slimy, and externally segmented by annular grooves and dermal scales embedded in skin. They possess reduced lidless eyes that are covered by skin or maxillary bones. They have a peculiar conical flap-like protrusible sensory tentacle present between the nostril and eye, which acts as a sensory organ. Both tympanum and tympanic cavity are absent, and tongue is fused with the floor of the mouth cavity. Tail is usually short and conical. Teeth are present on premaxilla, maxillopalatine, vomer, and on dentaries. Tail, if present, it is short and conical. The fertilization either external or internal, and females shows parental care. Example, Ichthyophis, hope you all could understand the general characteristic features and specific features of classified amphibians in this class. Yes, students, let me evaluate how much you could able to understand and learn from today's class. Let me ask you a few multiple choice questions in order to know how much you could able to understand and learn from this class. The first question: amphibians are ectothermic, endothermic, homeothermic, or none? Yes, they are ectothermic, that is cold-blooded animals. Answer is A. Second question is: phenomenon of pedomorphosis is shown by newt, toad, salamander, or frog? Yes, the answer is C. Salamander, Urodales. The third question is: animals of which order have tail in their larval forms? Apoda, Urodela, Anura, none of these. The answer is Anura, that is tailless amphibians. The fourth question is: the larva of frog is called trochophore larva, tadpole larva, amosit larva, or Tornaria larva? The answer is tadpole larva, that is B. The fifth question is: salamander belongs to the class Reptilia, Amphibia, Aves, or Mammalia? The answer is Amphibia, that is B. Students, these are the references cited for you to get more information. The websites and the books: S.N. Prasad and K.V. Kashyap, a textbook of vertebrate zoology, and E.L. Jordan and Dr. P.S. Verma, the chordate zoology. Thank you.